From baseball wife to Bond girl, from the brink of suicide to the height of stardom, Halle Berry has seen it all. In the next hour, you'll hear about Halle's traumatic childhood, volatile relationships, and struggle to stand on her own. Halle, her friends, and co-stars tell an incredible tale of survival, not the Cinderella story you'd expect, as Halle Berry is revealed.
I was ready to just...
Was he abusive? Was he not abusive?
It just seemed like dying would be better.
Halle Berry is so beautiful, you tend to forget how troubled her life has been at times. She has an amazing story, but forget all the rumors and half-truths you may have heard. Halle has never been more candid than when we sat down for Revealed.
What do you think people get wrong most about you?
I think they think I'm a lot softer and a lot more fragile than I really am. Especially after, where life has taken me. I'm really not fragile and weak at all. But I think people see me and they think that about me. And they tell me that. And I think, oh, you don't even know who I am. You have no idea.
Halle is anything but fragile in the James Bond film Die Another Day, where she goes head-to-head with Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, she's tough. She's tough. You have to be. You have to be tough as old boots to play this game. And she has it. She's also got humility.
Who sent you?
Your mama. And she told me to tell you she's really disappointed in you.
Halle wanted to be a Bond girl for a long time. She finally got her wish the same year she won the Oscar.
Whenever I see you, though, we're usually
backstage at something.
Yes, and you're holding an award. Knock wood, yeah. I was going through the research and I'm like, you have lived a life.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had no idea.
Really? Oh, wow. A good life.
That life wasn't always good. The Halle Berry story began in Cleveland, Ohio in 1968. She was the youngest of two daughters born to Jerome and Judith Berry. Early on, Halle knew her family wasn't typical.
I was aware of being interracial when other kids made me aware of it. When I was sort of, living in sort of the safe haven of my family, of my inner circle, my mother was white, my sister and I were black, my father was black, I had white cousins, I had black cousins. To me, color was never an issue. We were just different, all of us, one from another. It was only when the other kids started to notice that, hey, your mom's, what's wrong with your mom? Or, that's not really your mom, or... Then I started to think about it and think, well, I wonder why is my mom not quite like me?
And your mom, she was disowned by her family for marrying your father.
Yeah, for a while. They eventually sort of came back, but initially it was just too shocking and they just couldn't deal, and they sort of, abandoned her.
Then when Halle was 4, Jerome abandoned the family. Judith raised her daughters alone.
My father was an alcoholic early on and pretty abusive, so the early years, in many ways, the formative years, I think, were filled with a lot of turmoil and abuse. But then my mom quickly, my father left and she moved us to another neighborhood, and life got, sort of smoothed out a little bit.
Judith Berry took her daughters to the predominantly white suburb of Bedford, just outside of Cleveland. But she encouraged Halle to recognize her interracial background.
She made it really easy for me to understand why I had to accept who I was and embrace my blackness, and know that I can love both parts of my heritage and myself, but still identify with the black community, that's okay, because that's what I felt like. I felt very black. I felt discriminated against as I got into junior high school as a black kid, and that's who I identified with. And she let me know that I wasn't abandoning her or that side of my family if I felt more connected to the black community. And I needed her to sort of give me her approval, to feel who I really was and be who I wanted to be, and she did that.
Judith also gave her husband a second chance, But that turned out to be a mistake.
That was, I think, to this day, probably the worst year of my life, the day my father came back, because he was really abusive, and I saw him beat up my sister, my mother, but never me, you know, so I think I questioned that year a lot, and I had a lot of guilt as to why them and not me. Glad it wasn't me, but also secretly having a lot of guilt that it never happened to me.
Having that kind of a situation with your father, I think, would affect you and your relationships with men.
Well, in life in general, not just to say it's just about men sort of takes sort of the the magnitude of what that meant in my life away. It's not just about men. It affected my self-esteem, my sense of who I was, my confidence. I grew up with a lot of guilt, I think, because of that I've just discovered as I've gotten older in life. So it affected me in a lot of ways.
How did you come out of that, though?
Well, I think what happened to me was I became, as a result, sort of an overachiever. Looking back, I think I was so close to my mother and I felt so protective of my mother that when my father left, I wanted to just make her happy. I didn't want to ever disappoint her. I felt like she'd had so much disappointment and struggle. So I think I became just an overachiever. I wanted to do everything right. I wanted everybody to like me and love me, and I just wanted to be good, good to the bone.
At her primarily white high school, Halle became president of the Honor Society and editor of the school paper. But besides brains, Halle had beauty. She was a cheerleader and was later crowned Miss Teen Ohio after her first boyfriend signed her up for the competition.
Before my relationship with that guy went bad, he entered me into my first beauty pageant. When he still liked me, he entered me into my first beauty pageant. And so that got me on that path.
When Halle was 18, she entered the Miss USA pageant. Halle didn't take home the crown.
And then ironically, when I started losing, he left me for this other woman. That just occurred to me. Dog. But anyway.
Well, you came in first runner-up.
That wasn't good enough for him, obviously. So he sent me packing, and I went straight to Chicago. And I started modeling and studying at Second City.
You were interested in going into broadcast journalism.
I was.
You know, Halle.
I know. Jules, I could have your job right now.
you know what? You could. I know you could.
Halle chose a different career path. When we come back, the glamour of movie making.
When the policeman gave me the bulletproof vest, that's when I should have said, okay, what am I doing?
Plus, startling news.
I thought I was dying because I didn't know. All I heard was disease.
And later, Halle sets the record straight.
Can't say that I haven't chosen guys who, want to fight like that.
When Halle Berry was 19, she moved from Cleveland to Chicago, hoping to find work as a model and actress. Her career kicked into gear when she hooked up with manager Vincent Cirancione.
Actually, a friend of mine was cast in a show called Loving. He now actually does a show called General Hospital Man, and said he had a part in the show and he was looking for a young black woman.
Vincent was aware of Halle from the beauty pageant circuit and tracked her down. They've worked together ever since.
I think Halle and I just had something. I don't know how to really explain it. Just as people, just as sometimes you meet people at times in your life that help each other in life, and I think that's what we did.
He's been loyal. He's been a friend and a father. He's been someone to crack the whip and say, But he's also been, someone to give me a lot of love, unconditional love, all the time. Tried and true relationship.
The role on the soap was long gone, but a part on a network sitcom was up for grabs.
Living Doll Audition was incredible because, they flew us out to L.A. and we stayed at the Mondrian. And you go in like a room, I believe, with a bunch of executives, and and they auditioned to 4 or 5 girls, whatever they had. And after the audition, they came out and the director said they want to see something else, like change the scene. And I can remember the other girl they wanted to do, like 2 girls that were down to Halle and someone else. The other girl got nervous. All Halle did is what I have to do. She was very directed in, okay, what do I need to do?
Halle got the job. She played a young model living with 3 other beautiful models.
Anyway, I really like modeling, but my real goal is to become a doctor.
Hey, we got a lot in common. I need to see a doctor.
During shooting, Halle realized she had a problem.
It was the first time I had to work 12, 14 hours straight without a break to go to my usual vices, a candy bar, a little nap, a glass of juice. And I finally just passed out on the set. And they took me to the hospital, and when I came to, they said, "You're diabetic." And I thought I was dying because I didn't know. All I heard was disease. And I thought, oh God, what is that? And I quickly learned all about insulin and how it is manageable. And it took me about 5 years, but I got it very much under control.
How is being a diabetic, how does that affect you?
When it's under control, there's no effects really. You know, it's when it's out of control, which are usually under great times of stress for me. My blood sugar gets a little out of control, and it's, just a little bit, more sleepy, a little more lethargic, a little more, an abnormal feeling to your body. I can usually tell when my sugar's high or low or acting crazy.
Living Dolls only lasted 5 episodes.
For 6 months I didn't really work, and I was struggling, okay, what to do, is this really for me, or was that just a fluke job that I got? And then Spike Lee came along, and I got my first real acting job really in Jungle Fever, where I got to play sort of a crackhead to lose the physical self, and Spike gave me a chance to play a really good character part.
And Halle prepared maybe a little too much.
But I went to a crack house, like a real crack house. And when the policeman gave me the bulletproof vest, that's when I should have said, okay, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. But nope, I strapped it on, and I just go with these big, eyes, wanting to see, wanting to do. And looking back now, I'm like, how crazy. I had no knowledge of drugs and crack dens and that whole life, coming from sort of a suburban bringing up. I had no idea. So I really had to go see it.
And then so many people saw you in that film.
Yeah. And nobody, still to this day, I'll say to people, oh, I was Viv the crackhead in Jungle Fever, and they'll say, no, that wasn't you. And I'd say, yeah, that was. Yeah.
That's it. We're cutting you off, Gator. Don't come by the good Reverend Doctor's house anymore. Don't ever ask me. If you want to go out like this, you fine. You do it with your crack hole.
Crack hole!
Crack hole!
Eat me, mother...
Coming up, Halle falls for a baseball champ.
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
And then, overwhelming despair.
And you even thought about suicide.
In 1992, Halle Berry made her big screen debut in the Spike Lee film Jungle Fever. But it was her next project that really put her on the Hollywood map. Halle landed the title role in Queen, a miniseries based on the book by Alex Haley.
And I remember when the script was going around, I was working in an agency, and everybody wanted to play Queenie. And when they sent the script to you, you actually read it the night that Alex passed away?
The morning when I woke up and said, I think I really can do this, that's when I got the news that I'd never get to meet him and that he passed away. Yeah.
Queen was a continuation of the Roots saga. The series focused on the life of Alex Haley's grandmother.
Leave us something.
Lady wants us to leave her something.
Yeah, I'll leave her something. I always wanted me a fine southern lady.
You bored with the black slaves, little girl, huh?
Leave me alone.
So she wants to
try
play.
a real man?
Leave me alone.
Back here, come on.
It ain't what you think.
It was the first time I got to really stretch. I aged from like 15 till like, I guess she was 79 or 80. I really got to, play a wide range and lots of emotions, and it was really, really challenging, especially at that time. I was so new, and it was all so new to me, so I grew a lot.
During the making of Queen, Halle developed a major crush on a Major League Baseball star. David Justice was an outfielder for the Atlanta Braves. A reporter introduced them, and just 3 months later, Halle was wearing an engagement ring. On New Year's Day, 1993, David and Halle were married in Atlanta. Both had active careers, which kept them apart much of the time. Halle appeared in The Flintstones and Losing Isaiah. David played 162 games a year. In 1996, the couple separated.
David Justice.
Oh, gosh.
What was that?
I still don't know what that is, wasn't, I don't know. That was a moment in time when I had a brain fart. And I just had to suffer through it. Had to suffer through it.
Seemed like a good idea.
Seemed like a good idea at the time, and but in all seriousness, just it didn't work out. You know, it started off with all the, you know, makings of something one would think would be good, and slowly, or actually quickly, unraveled, and it was probably for the better.
Their very public split turned ugly after Halle filed a restraining order against David.
There's so many conflicting things that I feel written about your personal life and going through things. So I didn't know, was he abusive? Was he not abusive?
Well, that's personal, and I've never been one to really too much kiss and tell, and I think there's some things that should always be left between he and I, and that's kind of one of them. I can now, you know, it's 8 years away from it, say it was best that we separated, and I think he's really a good guy, really, or I'd like to think I wouldn't have chosen him, you know, but I think just not right for me, and I'm not right for him.
You were at one time involved in an abusive relationship with someone.
Yeah, that hit me, and I never ever disclosed that person, no reason to, but sure, it happened to me.
But you were seriously hurt. I mean, you lost your hearing.
Yeah, I lost some partial hearing, yeah. And I think one of the things that's always bothered me is I've sort of, you know, become this battered woman, and it's so not true. You know, that one guy hit me one time, and that's the last time, you know, it was done. The minute he did that, it was done. And I'm never one to stay in abusive situations. I can't say that I haven't chosen guys who, you know, wanna fight like that, but it's nothing that growing up with an abusive father, that's one thing my mother always told me. If a man hits you, you leave smoke. You don't wait around, you know, you get to getting. It's pretty much what I've done. Got my stuff and I got going.
But running away didn't erase the pain. Coming up on Revealed,
I was ready to just...
And later, Halle makes history.
All of a sudden I was in this race that I never thought I'd be in.
In 1997, 29-year-old Halle Berry was hard at work shooting the political satire Bulworth opposite Warren Beatty. But co-starring in a high-profile Hollywood film couldn't ease the pain of her difficult divorce.
After your marriage ended, that you were really, really depressed.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and I felt such a sense of failure. I felt like I failed. You know, up until that point, you know, you got to remember, I was this overachiever, did everything right and perfect, and everybody liked me, and that was so important to me. You know, that being that good girl that I always was from my childhood. And so I failed at this, or I saw it as a failure, that I could not make this work, no matter how hard I tried. It was inevitable that this should end. And I got really depressed.
And you even thought about suicide.
Yeah, I was ready to just, you know, I didn't fail at things, you know, and I failed at that. I was so enmeshed with the man in my life, and this, you know, it was ripped away from me, really, and there I was, not knowing what to do. And that one night, it just seemed like dying would be better.
And you planned it. You knew what you were going to do?
Sort of. Well, I'm such a, you know, in a way, I'm not going to, like, really do something that's going to cause me too much pain. I mean, that wasn't thinkable. So I was going to sit in the car and just sort of asphyxiate myself. I thought that would be a nice, easy way to just, you know, check out. And somewhere in that time period, I heard my mother. I thought about my mother, and I thought, wow, this is an incredibly selfish thing I'm sitting here doing. My mother will be destroyed. She will be destroyed. And she deserves, here's this girl who always wanted to please her mother. I will kill her if I do this. I will kill her. And I think that's what made me come to my senses.
Halle also came to grips with some deep-seated insecurities.
That year, I grew so much, and I realized that I really had based my sense of self, and I had given my sense of self-worth to another person, and how damaging that was, and how scary that was, that I wasn't in control of myself, and I had no idea really who I was. I was so attached to that other being, and it was hard to sort of disconnect and let who my real self was emerge. And for me to discover who I really was all by myself, without a man, I'd always had a man, a boyfriend, always somebody, you know, and I had to be alone with myself and see who I was, and that was pretty scary.
How long did you kind of go through that period?
Probably a good 2 years of self-discovery and being alone and not dating and just learning who I was, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I wanted to do, who I was, you know, what made me happy, what made me complete, what made me sad. I didn't know all those things. It was always, I was happy. If the guy was happy, I'm happy. If they're sad, then I'm sad too. You know, I had no voice of my own.
Finding her own voice gave Halle the confidence to take charge of her career.
My manager came to me one day, and I remember him saying, if you could tell a story, if you could be in a movie, like your fantasy movie, like what would it be? And let's try to make that happen. You know, because things were kind of slow, and for a black woman, there weren't a lot of parts, and he thought, let's make it happen.
Halle wanted to tell the story of 1950s entertainer Dorothy Dandridge. Problem was, Whitney Houston and Janet Jackson wanted to tell the same story.
You had two other women that wanted to do it, who were more famous, had more money, you know, let's face it, you know, for the women also. And they had books, they each had books. We didn't have a book at that time. And, you know, you need to go to have a book to be based on.
Halle bought the rights to the biography Dorothy Dandridge, written by Dandridge's former manager, Earl Mills. But it took 5 years to convince someone to make the movie. Finally, HBO stepped up, with Halle attached as star and producer.
It was hard, I guess, because being the actress, being the lead actress, and she was in every scene there, you know, and then to have to watch out, make sure the whole thing's going good was kind of tricky, I imagine, for anyone.
It turned out Halle had a lot in common with the woman she was playing.
You guys have so many parallels in your lives.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. It's really scary. Like about 10 years ago, I started to, you know, research who she was and started to find out, wow, this was a life that was full and complicated and exciting and sad all at the same time.
Both were born in the same Cleveland hospital, both endured tumultuous relationships, and both struggled as black actresses. Director Martha Coolidge encouraged Halle to draw on those similarities.
She's using her own life and the aspects of her own life that parallel Dorothy's, and certainly there are many parallels. The first day when we put Halle in Dorothy's Carmen outfit, we all got chills. It was an incredible experience. She's just a dead ringer, and she's captured the spirit and the talent and sensitivity also.
Go ahead, Earl. Make jokes. Tonight I'll take my bows and exit stage rear, go through the kitchen, past the casino, around the pool that I'm apparently too dirty to swim in, up the service elevator, into my luxurious penthouse suite, sip my complimentary champagne, and pee in a brand new Dixie cup.
I take that walk with you every night, you know.
But the difference is, Earl, you don't have to.
When we return, fame backfires.
I was just humiliated, horrified.
Plus,
what's your biggest struggle?
In early 2000, Halle Berry won a Golden Globe for her extraordinary performance in the HBO film introducing Dorothy Dandridge. And she was involved with R&B singer Eric Benet.
I mean this sincerely. This is the best year of my life, professionally and personally. You know, when you hook up with your soulmate and the love of your life, and you get accolades for your work, you know, life doesn't really get much better than that. So.
Halle and Eric were engaged, but plans changed one February night. Halle was involved in a hit-and-run accident near Hollywood Sunset Strip. After the crash, Halle drove away with a gash in her forehead that required 22 stitches. The driver and the other cars suffered a broken wrist.
You still have no memory?
Still none. And I've had to come to I've had to come to accept that I may never remember or understand why. And all I can do is just do what I did, take responsibility the best I could for what I did, and accept that I don't know why I did it. That's all I can really do. And, you know, and sort of move on. And that's sort of where I'm stuck, you know.
And you hadn't been drinking, you were with a girlfriend?
No, with my girlfriend.
Do you think it was your being a diabetic? Do you think that you had low blood sugar, or?
It could have been. Nobody at the hospital that night took my blood sugar to find out or took any real medical precautions to find out. So I don't know. But it could have been. But I never once have tried to blame it on that because I didn't know that for sure. So I wasn't going to say that. I didn't know. When I got in the car to drive home, I felt fine. I didn't feel like my blood sugar was weird in any way, no.
At first, news of the accident was kept quiet. Then word got out, and Halle became a punchline.
I wasn't even aware of the accident. I became aware of it because of the jokes. Like on the Tonight Show and things, and on the Oscars.
Yeah, oh yeah.
How does that feel?
I was so humiliated the night of the Oscars when that joke, I was at my lowest low dealing with it all too, and I was scared, you know. And that hit me really hard. I thought, oh my God. You know, everybody in the industry that is important, all the people around the world watching, and you know, stupid joke about my car accident. I was just humiliated, horrified. I just was, you know, obviously very self-involved and I was just, you know, nothing existed outside what was happening with that car accident for me. I mean, nothing existed. I was in this just abyss, just, you know, swirling and swirling and swirling, and every little thing seemed huge to me at that time. You know, and so much confusion still, even in my own brain about what happened.
On May 10th, 2000, Halle pleaded no contest to leaving the scene of an accident. She was fined $13,500 and ordered to perform 200 hours of community service. She was also sentenced to 3 years probation. Halle's fiancé, Eric Benet, stood by her side.
Well, there's so much of this craziness over the last couple of years. He's been there.
Yeah, he has, and like a rock, and that's been a good, it's been a blessing for me, because I don't think I could have survived a lot of it without, well, maybe I would have survived it, but not with the grace that I managed to survive it all. I would not have done it with as much grace, that's for sure.
Things began to look up in September of 2000 when Halle won an Emmy for her performance in introducing Dorothy Dandridge.
You know, there's nothing like hearing your name called, and I hadn't heard it called really until this year, so I'm not used to it yet. I never know what to say, and this is just a great end to a wonderful journey.
Up next, marriage, motherhood, and Monsters Ball.
When you can really know who somebody really is and love them anyway, to me that's really what it's all about.
Well, for some reason, I don't get as much attention unless I'm on her arm, but...
That's not true. I have to beat the women off all day long.
Yeah, whatever.
Halle Berry kicked off the year 2001 by marrying longtime boyfriend, R&B artist Eric Benet.
He gives me what I need in a mate right now, and that's somebody who will love me unconditionally, no matter where I'm coming from, who I want to be that given day. He loves her. He supports me through ups and downs, and even more so when I've had the down times. He's emerged as being really strong and a protector.
What was your wedding day like?
Very small, just 4 people out on a beach, just us, very free form, nothing traditional about it. We did our own vows, very simple.
And you guys were always hounded by the media, and you pulled it off.
We did, on a public beach. I'm so proud of that. On a public beach in the middle of the day. Yeah, it was great.
Still, the tabloids didn't let up on Halle and Eric, reporting rumors that the marriage was on the rocks. But according to Halle, that's just not true.
Why do you think you guys work?
We're developing into a couple who has such honesty. When you can really know who somebody really is and love them anyway, to me that's really what it's all about. And I think as we go on in our marriage, I'm learning who he really is, and he's learning who I really am. And we're still able to say, you know what, with all your warts and everything that's wonderful about you, but with all your warts and scabs, and I love you anyway. I'm here anyway for the long haul. And I think that's why it's gonna work.
Halle also became stepmom to Eric's 12-year-old daughter, India.
Tell me what it's meant having India in your life.
It's been just joy, just sheer joy. When I turned 30, I was divorcing, but I also was feeling very maternal, and I thought, okay, something's not right here. So when she came along, she's filled that maternal need that I was just aching to be a mother and to be maternal and love someone like that. And she's just joy. You know, her mother died when she was really young, so I get a chance to be the mother of the most beautiful, well-behaved, sweet, smart little girl. She's just great.
Do you think about one day getting pregnant and continuing to have a family?
Yeah, I hope so. You know, I hope that happens. But I now know, I'm sort of relaxed about it now. If it doesn't happen, I will feel very fulfilled. You know, I couldn't love India anymore if she came out of my very own body. That's how connected I am and how much I love her. But I hope I get to have a child.
Until then, Halle's love for acting keeps her fighting for good roles.
Throughout your career, in reading reviews, they always mention how beautiful you are. Has it gotten in the way of you not gotten roles because of how you look?
I think so, but I don't necessarily know it's always because someone thinks I'm beautiful. I think people sometimes think I'm a lot more fragile or more delicate than I really am, and they think I can't play hardened and tough.
Halle proved she could play tough when she co-starred in Swordfish with John Travolta and Hugh Jackman.
She'd kick my ass any day of the week. Oh, are you kidding? First day of Swordfish, I had to, at the end of this scene, my character shoved her out the door, right? She said to me, just push me. I said, yeah. Halle, I'll pretend to push. She goes, push me. I said, I'll just pretend. Anyway, I wasn't going to do it. Then on the day, she just came up, she whacked me, and I was like, I pushed her straight out. And she was like, oh, she went straight down. You've never seen somebody stump me in your life. And she's like, I'm fine, let's do it again. Oh, she's tough.
He'll pay you just to meet you.
I gotta go to work.
Right. Great work greasing pump jacks. So, spoke to Halle lately?
She knows that the acting comes first and that the looks are second, and she trusts that part of it, and that's what makes it work for her. She knows that looks are an asset, but they are the icing on the cake. The cake is your ability to interpret a character and have it be one that is very watchable and very effective.
When we come back, Halle's monster win.
Had I prepared something, maybe I wouldn't have been like a blubbering idiot.
And what's missing from Halle's life?
That's been my biggest struggle, more than being black.
The lead role in Monsters Ball was a turning point in Halle Berry's career. She played a woman struggling with prejudice, interracial love, and the loss of her child. It was a juicy part that Halle really wanted, but once again, the job didn't come easily.
You fought for this role too.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you say to them?
I don't remember exactly what I said, but I knew that when I heard that they didn't think I could do it, something inside me just sort of ignited, and I became passionate about proving to them that you cannot judge me by who you think I am without giving me a chance. I mean, they wanted to say no to me without even meeting me and talking about it, and something just ignited.
Director Mark Forster was hesitant about giving Halle the part.
Basically, hiring someone like with Halle's image, the challenge is up on me, because I have to convince the audience and take them away from her and her image and involve them so deeply in the story that they become part of the story, and that was a challenge.
It's sort of been a battle that I feel like I've been fighting a long, long time, being perceived to be one way, and really not having a chance to really express who I really am.
One day, you know, Vince started calling my house, and I said, look, do you want to meet her? And I said, you know, I don't really want to meet her, because I knew if I meet her, then I might, you know, there's this thin line. You know, it's just, I don't want to meet her and not give her the part. I think it's just not right.
I just convinced them to give me, you know, meetings with the director and the producer and let me just tell them what I thought and how I saw the character and what in my life allowed me to relate to this kind of pain and this kind of struggle, you know, and this kind of trauma that I know what that feels like. And through a series of meetings and conversations, I think Mark finally, that's our director, finally, I think I just wore him down, really. I think he's like, just, oh, okay. And so he gave me a chance.
Halle's gritty, emotional performance was considered a breakthrough, and in March 2002, she became the first African-American woman to win an Academy Award for Best Actress.
It's not really about me as much as it's about so many other women of color who have tried to permeate, you know, this system for so many years. And today, this meant, you know, hope. That glass ceiling was broken wide open, and that just feels good.
When you think about that night, though, what stands out for you?
Probably just being a part of history. You know, I now feel like I'm a part of history in some small, tiny way, and how much it meant for so many other people. And that night I knew that, but every day since, not one person, at least one person every day that I leave the house will come up to me and say what that meant to them and how inspired they were. And so what feels important is that it meant so much to so many other people too.
Yeah, and you had not prepared a speech.
That's the bad part. I go back and I look at it, I thought, now had I prepared something, maybe I wouldn't have been like a blubbering idiot, and I would have been more, you know, more like Denzel and been more, you know, graceful and dignified and more together had I thought about it. So
when scripts come your way, are they roles or black roles?
It's changing. No, it's starting to change, and after Oscar this year, I've seen a big change in that, so that's why I feel like I'm just starting again. I have this new zest for the business. But before then, of course the black roles would come, and the roles that weren't written for black people, I'd have to fight really hard for.
Was there a role you really wanted you didn't get?
Yeah, but not really. You know, there are things that I really fought hard for that I didn't get, but I wouldn't say now I'm sitting here thinking I still wish I would have gotten it. So when something doesn't happen, I just say that wasn't meant for me. Or a movie that I thought I wanted will come out and it'll just tank, and I'll think, see, I wasn't supposed to do that. I was not supposed to do that. So that's how I sort of justify, you know, what's mine will be mine.
Is it true you passed on Speed?
Yes, I did. But that wasn't meant for me. That didn't tank. No, it didn't. But I believe it wouldn't have done for me what it did for Sandra Bullock. I would have just been the black bus driver. It would not have done that for me. It wouldn't have. It would not have done that for me. Would not have.
But Halle didn't pass on being a Bond girl in Die Another Day. In fact, she'd been waiting to get in on the action for a long time.
The first one I ever saw was Dr. No with Ursula Andress, just as, you know, one day I saw it on television, like on the UHF station in Cleveland at home, and I thought, wow, and I remember thinking how sexy and groovy and cool the women were in Bond. And now as I've gotten older and I've witnessed how they've evolved, it's been really quite exciting.
While shooting Die Another Day, Halle took a break to attend the Academy Awards. Back on the Bond set, the cast and crew were pulling for her.
We had a little party for her. We had a cake and we had champagne and we toasted her. So it was every man and woman who worked on the set was rooting for her. And so when she won, it was a joyous occasion. And came back, and then it's business as usual, really. She came back the same woman she left. Magnificent view.
It is, isn't it? Too bad it's lost on everybody else.
Mojito? You should try it.
Jacinta Johnson. My friends call me Jinx.
My friends call me James Bond. Jinx, you say?
Born on Friday the 13th.
You believe in bad luck?
Let's just say our relationships don't seem to last.
Did you do any kind of training to get into the physicality of it?
I just sort of stepped up my workout routine a little bit. And other than that, I learned to work with knives. My character is an expert knife thrower, so I, almost took a few eyeballs out in practice.
And speaking of eyes,
So,
you got hurt.
I had a little tiny eye injury.
Well, what happened?
It was a scene where I'm running and firing after a helicopter, and something, fired a certain way, and a little piece of something hit me in the eye. And it was really no big deal. But in movies, if anything happened, you have to see a doctor for insurance reasons. So because I had to see a doctor, it sort of blew it up out of proportion. And if I hadn't seen a doctor, I would have been just fine. But I had to see a doctor, and so that made it really a bigger deal than it really was.
After years of dramatic ups and downs, Halle Berry has come to terms with who she is.
I've got a couple quotes from you.
Uh-oh. What have I said?
My 30s will be about stopping the cycle, understanding who I am, and not repeating the same mistakes.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about. I think so.
Being black is not my biggest struggle.
That's true. It's not.
Well, what's your biggest struggle?
I think finding a fulfilling, happy personal life. That's been my biggest struggle, more than being black.
Is it a work in progress?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think that's my life's journey, to find that. I think that's what it is. That's what it is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Halle, you didn't cry at all in this interview.
I know, aren't you proud of me?
I am so, every time I see you.
See, that's another myth. Come on, let me clear that up. Another thing is, people think I cry all the time, like I walk around like this big mess. And I'm really not.
Halle, you could have cried.
I don't think anybody else in America want to see me crying. After Oscar night, they're done. They don't want to see any more tears from me.
He's ridiculously handsome, wickedly funny, and he's survived more crises than you can count. No, we're not talking about Bond.
James Bond.
This is Brosnan, Pierce Brosnan.
This is your life.
In the next hour, we'll trace the turbulent life of the man who plays Her Majesty's most daring agent. The difficult early days, the death of his first wife, the near-fatal accident that almost took his son, and much more.
Magnificent view.
Watch out, world. Pierce Brosnan is about to be revealed.
Is it interesting so far? Are you still with us? That's a lot of BS. I never said that. God, talk about pressure. He said, you better be good in this. You better be good.